I would necessarily have. It is a moment where you need to have that discussion. The monarchy provides, with the Constitution, a degree.
Princess Anne has just revealed one of King Charles's final wishes, something so personal it caught both Prince William and Prince Harry completely by surprise in a family defined by tension and things left unsaid. The King's request left his sons utterly stunned and completely uncertain about what happens next. This led to an unexpected summit. The second Prince Harry arrived at Windsor alone. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Meghan's absence was glaring, sparking whispers among the staff before the meeting even began. By having Harry attend by himself, the couple was sending a loud, clear and silent message about their current standing with the royal family. Inside the grand halls, the silence was almost deafening. King Charles had summoned everyone, but the entire atmosphere was heavy with unspoken words. Security was also noticeably tighter, a clear sign that this meeting was about far more than just exchanging family pleasantries. The biggest surprise was that Charles, who is usually the one to address the family, had decided not to speak at all. Instead, Princess Anne was given the duty of delivering his message. And while you might think something like this could happen, you don't really dwell on it, mostly because the monarchy is supposed to be all about continuity. This break from tradition made it instantly clear just how serious things had become. Many hadn't seen the king in weeks, and his frail appearance showed the toll his health struggles had taken. Standing before them all, Anne looked like the very picture of composure, but her posture was rigid with the weight of her duty. When she spoke, her words sliced through the dense tension. This was not just some other royal announcement, it was a seismic shift in the future of the monarchy. What many had expected to be a slow and steady transition was now being put on the fast track. The monarchy, it seemed, was getting a complete overhaul. The shock was written all over William's face as he absorbed the magnitude of what was being asked of him. The timeline for him to become king had been drastically moved up. What should have taken years was now being crammed into a matter of months. Harry, standing on the sidelines, felt the permanent shift that had just occurred. His eyes met William's for a fleeting second, a silent understanding passing between them despite the rift that had grown so wide. Within moments, arguments started to erupt. Prince Edward, who typically plays the family peacekeeper, suddenly found himself caught right in the middle of their growing family feud. Even Camilla, who is often reserved in these family discussions, voiced her own concerns about the incredible pace of change. Everyone was scrambling to make sense of the sudden shift. But this was not a decision King Charles had made lightly. His health was failing, and he knew the future of the monarchy depended on this dramatic restructuring. The years of public scandals, growing distrust, and internal family divisions had all reached a breaking point, and Anne was specifically chosen to deliver this news. Charles, even in his weakened condition, had spent countless sleepless nights drafting and redrafting the announcement, speaking only with his most trusted advisers. Within the royal family, Anne was well known for her blunt honesty, a trait that sometimes conflicted with the monarchy's usual preference for careful diplomacy. But in this critical moment, her very direct and straightforward approach was exactly what Charles needed. In a family where difficult truths are often buried in ceremony, Anne was the one person he could count on to speak plainly. When she finished, a long silence filled the room. Even the staff standing by seemed to be holding their breath. It felt as if centuries of tradition might just come crashing down at any given moment. Charles's plan wasn't merely about passing on the crown. It was about fundamentally re-evaluating the monarchy's role in the modern world. With approval ratings dropping and anti-monarchy sentiment growing in Commonwealth nations, Charles knew the institution could not continue down its current path. Recent polls revealed a sharp decline in support among younger Britons, a trend that Charles knew he could no longer afford to ignore. His plan included reducing the number of working royals, opening up more royal properties to the public, and overhauling the monarchy's finances in ways that would have been completely unthinkable under previous monarchs. This was not about tradition any longer. It was about making sure the monarchy itself could survive in an increasingly sceptical modern age. William was still going to inherit the throne, but the monarchy he'd lead was being completely reimagined. It was no longer simply about holding a title. It was about influence, about public image, and about whether the monarchy could possibly still matter after everything that it had gone through. The weight of history was undeniable. Charles's decision wasn't made in a vacuum. It was forged by nearly a century of turbulent and difficult royal history. The abdication crisis of 1936, when Edward VIII stepped down, had forced his unprepared brother George VI onto the throne, almost destabilising the entire monarchy. Then, when George died young in 1952, his daughter Elizabeth II had to inherit the throne at an incredibly young age, shouldering burdens most people don't anticipate until much later in life. Charles grew up watching his own mother sacrifice her personal life for her duty. This strained their relationship and gave him a very complex view of what royal obligation truly meant. Watching the crown essentially erase his mother's identity, he learned very early on that power wasn't at all glamorous. It isolated her, turning her into a living symbol for the nation. Her personal desires always came second to the public's expectations. When Elizabeth died in 2022, the monarchy lost its last true pillar of consistency. Her 70-year reign had done a masterful job of hiding the institution's much deeper issues. Charles's cancer diagnosis not long after, though, kept private, initially made it perfectly clear that time was a luxury he couldn't afford. Suddenly, securing the monarchy's future was an urgent matter. Having spent decades of his life preparing to be King Charles, now found himself confronting the very real possibility that his own reign could be cut short by his illness. The cruel irony was not lost on him or on the royal historians who had long studied the history of delayed successions within the House of Windsor. Now, with his own health failing, Charles was determined that William would not inherit the same institutional weaknesses that had made his own transition so challenging. Charles had always been the patient heir, but now time was running out. The crown was no longer just a powerful symbol. It had become fragile, and it needed protection from both external critics and internal conflict. Every public appearance now required intense medical planning, with doctors on constant standby as Charles studied other European monarchies and the chaos that followed their own rushed abdications. He refused to repeat their mistakes. His decisions were all about the survival of the institution, not about his own personal legacy. He introduced new measures for financial transparency and started discussions about giving royal artefacts back to former colonies. He even began converting royal estates into public housing moves completely unimaginable under previous rulers. Behind the scenes, William and Kate were quietly taking on far more responsibilities. Then reports surfaced that William was receiving the government's red boxes right alongside his father, a gradual but very clear transfer of power. It was clear Prince William was being prepared for a possible call-up to the top job. William's role in meetings with the Prime Minister and global leaders was steadily growing. Step by step, he was being readied for the immense weight of the crown. And then there was Kate's critical part. She moved into a central position so naturally with no fanfare at all. Where Diana had battled against the restrictions of royal life and Meghan had ultimately rejected them entirely, Kate displayed a stunning adaptability. She handled solo duties, oversaw programs on childhood development and mental health, and hosted foreign dignitaries with a quiet confidence that impressed even veteran diplomats. She became the figure of stability that both the public and the royal family could truly count on. And while William was the one who would wear the crown, Kate was becoming the emotional core of the monarchy's future. Her bond with Charles transformed from formal to genuinely warm. As the king sought her advice more on family matters, he saw in her the stability his own first marriage lacked. Unlike so many who marry into the royal family, Kate brought authenticity instead of aristocratic ties. Her middle-class background, once quietly mocked by some insiders as too ordinary, now served as a vital link to the lives of everyday British people. Queen Elizabeth had noticed her steady presence very early on, while some others, like Camilla, initially saw her as a potential rival to their influence. Kate's strength was rooted in staying grounded after entering an institution built on hierarchy and tradition. Her handling of public crises proved her value again and again. When Meghan Markle famously claimed Kate had made her cry during wedding preparations, Kate responded with a dignified silence. She released no statements and gave no interviews. She just carried on with her work, perhaps even more visibly. This restraint showed a strength that wowed royal advisors and the public. Her approval ratings consistently topped most other family members, even beating William at times. But behind palace walls, Kate's influence is much more than just public appearances. She's modernised royal parenting, insisting her kids have experiences outside the bubble of extreme privilege. She has earned deep trust with her sound judgment in private council meetings. While others made headlines with scandals, Kate just built credibility through reliable, steady service. At the coronation of King Charles, her presence alone signalled the monarchy's new direction. There was the future standing confidently right beside the present, ready to move forward when the time came. Her relationship with the younger royals has made her the family's emotional centre. Staff have reported that even the late Queen's corgis, who were notoriously picky with their affection, respond warmly whenever she is around. In a family often criticised for being cold, Kate has brought in warmer parenting while still respecting traditions. The monarchy is now facing unprecedented scrutiny in our digital age. Social media has completely changed how royal actions are seen, with every single move dissected by millions online. Public relations experts working for the palace now track digital sentiment around the clock, giving daily briefings on how the royals are being perceived online. This is a fundamental change from Elizabeth's era, when public opinion formed more slowly through traditional media. Charles understood this new reality early in his reign. He set up the very first Royal Social Media Council, made up of traditional advisors and young digital natives, to help steer their online communication. Despite some pushback from older courtiers, this tactic has helped the monarchy handle controversies more effectively before they completely blow up. The divide between the brothers. Meanwhile, Prince Harry seems trapped between worlds. He's building a new life in California, but his British identity still ties him to the institution he left behind years after stepping away from royal life. He still plays a part in the monarchy's future because of his bloodline and his ongoing story about royal life. But despite polite public statements, the relationship between Harry and William remains shattered. They haven't had a real conversation in years, and tensions exploded after their Oprah interview revealed private family talks about their children's potential skin colour. Harry's explosive memoir Spare drove the wedge even deeper, with shocking stories of physical fights and deeply unflattering depictions of both William and Kate. Palace staff who've served both brothers claim that William now refuses to even discuss Harry in private, and immediately shuts down the conversation if his name comes up. Rumours won't die down that Harry has more secrets ready to go, but still unreleased. Insiders close to the Sussexes hint that entire chapters were cut from Spare on legal advice before it went to print. Some think he's holding out for a chance to reconcile, while others believe he's waiting to see what kind of king his brother William actually becomes. The threat of this material creates a constant state of anxiety within the palace, but whether Harry can ever return to the family might not be his decision anymore. That power is shifting more and more to William, whose own position grows stronger as Charles's health fluctuates. The entire dynamic has changed for good. Harry can no longer go to his father as the final authority on his status. His future is now completely in William's hands. I don't think that we can ever have peace with my family unless the real truth is out there. As William prepares to take the lead, his style seems far more decisive than his father's. Where Charles would absorb family conflicts quietly, William seems ready to set very clear boundaries. And according to senior sources inside the palace, one of his first acts on the throne might be to formally strip Harry and Meghan of their Royal Highness titles, which they still have but agreed not to use after stepping back. William believes the monarchy needs a much clearer definition of who is in and who is out, especially in a media age where any stray comment goes global. If you choose to leave, you shouldn't get to keep the titles of the institution you walked away from. And his position only hardened after Meghan was called Her Royal Highness in a reposted message from a foreign diplomat which went directly against the agreement not to use that title. For William, it was just more proof of the ongoing confusion about their actual status and the desperate need for firmer boundaries. Another massive challenge the monarchy is grappling with is its connection to the Commonwealth nations. During Queen Elizabeth's reign, her incredible personal popularity kept those connections strong even as many former colonies began to question their relationship with Britain. Since she passed away, several Caribbean nations have started the formal process to remove the British monarch as their head of state. Following Barbados's lead in 2021, Charles has handled this with surprising pragmatism, not resistance. He's privately admitted this evolution is inevitable and maybe even healthy. Rather than fighting to hold on to symbolic positions of power, his strategy has been to remake these relationships into true partnerships based on shared goals, not historical duty. This entire approach has stunned many people who fully expected him to fight much harder to keep traditional roles alive. And William has been absolutely central to making this new vision a reality. His tours of Commonwealth countries are now focused on climate change education and cultural exchange instead of old ceremonial duties. Behind the scenes, he has been meeting with young Commonwealth leaders to truly understand how they see the monarchy's role in the future. These talks have sometimes brought to light uncomfortable truths about how the younger generations really view Britain's colonial past. This transition is easily one of the most dramatic shifts in British foreign policy in several decades. For centuries, these relationships formed the foundation of Britain's global power. Now, both Charles and William realise that desperately clinging to outdated power structures will only make them collapse faster. Instead, they're focused on building a Commonwealth relationship that's based on mutual respect, not historical disputes. So, what is Charles's final wish for a king whose reign has been defined by health scares and his mother's immense legacy? His final royal wish is about more than just ceremony. He's hoping for some family healing, not a full storybook reconciliation, but at least a small opening where they could start talking again. According to his inner circle, he spends his late evenings looking over old family photographs from happier times, especially the ones showing William and Harry playing together as kids. He didn't want Harry brought back as a full working royal, but he also didn't want him permanently cut off from the family. The king has kept a private channel of communication open with Harry through trusted go-betweens, even when talking directly became almost impossible. Charles firmly believed that family connections came with responsibilities that can't be wiped away by distance or public arguments. His view was complex, trying to protect the institution while also recognising that blood is thicker than royal protocol. He hoped to leave behind not just a stable institution, but a family that hadn't completely shattered into pieces. And this concern grew more intense as his own health declined, creating a ticking clock to mend family wounds before time simply ran out. Princess Anne delivered this message with her trademark directness at the Windsor meeting. She's respected by both William and Harry for her no-nonsense attitude, and she presented Charles's wish as a matter of duty, not emotion. But even she understood that any truce depends on both sides actually wanting it, something she privately felt was in very short supply to fix the enormous divide. The King's medical team has advised him against any kind of emotional stress during his treatment. This makes any direct intervention in his son's relationship completely impossible. Instead, he has tasked his most trusted aides with drafting potential ways to open communication, ready to be used when the time is right. These secret plans are locked in a private safe in his personal study to be put into motion if his condition dramatically worsens. The monarchy can plan coronations and release statements, but it can't order away emotional wounds through a royal decree. It can't undo public bombshells or heal private betrayals with protocol. Charles simply tried to create a little space for understanding. But whether that olive branch will be taken is now completely out of his control, as he must focus on his health. The decision rests entirely with William, and his coming reign is no mere formality. It represents a critical choice about the monarchy's entire future, and whether the family can find any way back from years of public warfare. Will he honour his father's dying wish for just a small opening, or will he slam the door shut forever on the brother who left? The answer will define not just their family, but how the public views the crown for decades. And behind closed doors, advisers argue over strategy. Some are arguing for a clean break strip, the titles clarify the line of succession, and move on with a smaller monarchy focused only on those who stayed. But others warn that being so final might create a wave of public sympathy for Harry and Meghan, especially if it happens while Charles's health is failing. Royal historians are reminding everyone that a divided family has historically been the monarchy's greatest weakness, but William's ultimate decision is still a mystery. Those who know him best report a growing confidence in his own judgment and his readiness to make tough decisions. Charles's final message wasn't just a simple request. It was a test of William's vision for the monarchy and whether he could balance the needs of the institution against the bonds of his own family. It's about the monarchy's modern identity. King Charles didn't just inherit a crown, he inherited a monarchy caught somewhere between ancient tradition and radical transformation. This institution, once defined by ceremony and keeping a stiff upper lip, now has to survive in a world where visibility is everything, and where silence is often seen as not caring. Charles gets this. Unlike the monarchs before him, he wasn't suddenly thrust onto the throne. He waited for decades watching public opinion change, watching institutions fail, and learning a lesson no other king ever had to how to lead when leadership itself is constantly under attack. From the very start of his reign, Charles has been clear that this won't be a monarchy of pure spectacle. It's going to be streamlined, more thoughtful, and more responsive to the modern world. His vision was always for a slimmed-down royal family. That means fewer public appearances, fewer working royals on duty, and a much smaller number of taxpayer-funded positions. And look, this is more than just a way to cut costs. It's his attempt to earn back trust by showing they can be restrained and relevant. His mother, the late Queen Elizabeth II, represented stability. Charles, however, wants to represent change. He knows society is different. People demand transparency now. They're pushing back against the very idea of inherited power. They scrutinise everything from the family's immense wealth to their age-old traditions. Charles knows that to survive the modern monarchy can't just ignore these questions. It has to prove its value through its actions and real reform. It's an incredibly delicate balance, respecting the past while simultaneously adjusting to the modern world's expectations. But let's be real, reshaping the monarchy's identity is not a solo mission. He's surrounded by a team of senior royals that's getting smaller and smaller. Prince William and Princess Kate are absolutely critical to the future of the crown. They command both public sympathy and massive international attention. However, the recent health scares for both Charles and Kate have created serious gaps in their public schedule and workload. In this 24/7 media world, being out of sight makes you a target, because when major royals vanish from the public eye, wild speculation rushes in to fill that void. And once that genie is out of the bottle, you can't put it back. Throughout her life, Her Majesty, the Queen, my beloved mother. And this is exactly why Charles has quietly made media management a huge priority. He's not declaring open war on the press, but he is laying down some brand new rules of engagement. Under his watch, royal engagements have become shorter, tighter, and way more selective. Photographers don't have the free rein they once did, and information is only released when absolutely necessary. You see fewer spontaneous moments now, almost no leaks, and many more highly rehearsed appearances. Make no mistake, this isn't a retreat. It's a deliberate strategy to shield the family's image while holding on to their dignity. Charles is keenly aware of one hard truth: the monarchy can't just control the story by default anymore. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's choice to go public with those big interviews and streaming deals proved one thing to the world: the palace's traditional silence just doesn't work anymore. It unleashed a firestorm where raw emotion and family conflict were beamed across the globe. This forced the royals to respond not with stiff press releases, but with their actual conduct and behaviour. Charles's reaction has been to keep up a calm public front and refuse to engage in any public mudslinging. But behind the scenes, he is completely overhauling how the monarchy manages its public image. In this new era, everything revolves around control and extreme caution. The royal family's entire relationship with the press has been fundamentally changed. Sources say Charles approved internal reviews of all communications and severely limited insider access. Reports also suggest they're cracking down on leaks and taking more direct control over press relations. It might not seem like some huge drama, but it's a quiet, massive shift in the power dynamic. The king is not just a figurehead cutting ribbons anymore. He has effectively become the editor-in-chief of the monarchy's public image. But this level of caution comes at a price. The more the royal family holds back, the wilder public speculation gets. Because in the modern world, mystery doesn't inspire admiration anymore. It just creates suspicion and doubt. The king is now trying to preserve that royal mystique without coming across as cold, distant, or completely out of touch. And this might be the toughest part of his entire reign: how to remain visible without becoming overexposed. To his credit, Charles's approach so far has been remarkably consistent. He's modernising with discipline instead of drama. He's reshaping the monarchy's identity by reducing its scale, while at the same time increasing his control over it. He's not chasing popularity, he is pursuing legitimacy. And he believes that legitimacy must be earned through responsibility, not simply through charm. Now, this new version of the monarchy might not be for everyone. It is definitely more low-key, far more cautious, and more tightly managed than we've ever seen. But for King Charles, this isn't some kind of performance. It's about future-proofing the entire institution for a world where absolutely nothing is sacred, and everything eventually becomes public. Now, as Prince William stands on the brink of his own future reign, there's one single decision that could change the monarchy's path forever. What's your take on this? Should William honour his father's final wish, or must he take a harder line to ensure the crown's stability? Go ahead and let us know what you think down in the comments.